Good evening, everybody. Warm welcome to a Lyceum night coming to you from the Paul Christian Spiritualist Church down on the south coast of the UK. My name's Laurie. I'll be with you for the next hour or so. And tonight's topic is just something that's been going round and round and round in the energies of late. And we're talking about change. Change on all different levels. So we've got change in ourselves, us as individuals, change in our movement, in our philosophy, our religion, whatever our phraseology is, of spiritualism, and change too in the way that we interact with the other world. Whether we be evidential mediums or healing mediums, philosophical mediums, doesn't matter. We're all working hand in hand with that other world, that wonderful place that's there just to bring us so much if we allow it. So change. We're funny old things, aren't we? We don't like change. We don't, we resist change all the time. And in our world, our physical world, there is just so much change come in and continues. It's just, we're finding it really unsettling. I know talking with people, very active within the church and other groups. And yeah, there is this unsettled energy. And a lot of it is arising from change, where it's almost like a sense of bereavement in some cases, because we're grieving for what was. We're grieving for the ability to pick up the phone and get a doctor's appointment. We're grieving for just the way things are managed, and yeah, it's just the management of things, isn't it? I'm talking in, our physical world. I don't go down the negative routes, and I don't pick up on, specific items. But yeah, we've seen so much, and I'm sure, like many of you, we sometimes, when we do, and news items come through, we just think, what on earth is going on? What is going on? And this can cause us, individuals, ourselves, this great deal of discourse and upset. It really can. It really weighs on our mind. And we're funny old things as human beings. We do tend to, if anything negative happens, we tend to sort of like hone in on that a little bit more than we do with the positive things. The positive things, you say, oh, that's lovely. The negative things go, oh, yeah, well, it happened to me and this happened and that happened. So we sort of engender and build that negative energy with it unwittingly, without knowing it, not a conscious effort, but we do tend to empower that negative energy with our interactions. Just for an example, tonight somebody, bless them, and thankfully they found the cat, but they'd lost the cat. So the original post was, lost this cat in an area local to us. Please help. All the things, any responsible cat owner would do. And your heart goes out to them, because you know what a worry it is if they disappear. It's awful. If we haven't got children, we've got our cats, which are surrogate children. And just somebody put on there, why would you let indoor cats outside? Indoor cats live longer than outdoor. Just why? Why on earth what impels people to sit there and type in this negative stuff? So that's got my mind searching a wee bit. Hello, lovely Belinda. Yeah, that's got my mind probing and questioning this. I mean, we have for quite a few years had this air of entitlement that has come into our world. This was long before 2020, so it's not a side effect of that era. It's, it's always been there. Want it, need it now, and if not, I haven't got it now, then I can complain because I haven't got it now. And it really is a progressive, detrimental energy. We saw a pause in 2020 where actually we did all look out for each other, where we did all, if we couldn't say anything good, actually didn't say anything bad either. And we just showed that caring, nurturing side of ourselves, which everybody has got. Everybody has got. It's there. It may be buried very deeply, but it's always there because it is part of our nature. So, this negative side. Now, I know I've said this before, and I'm a very firm believer in this, that since the lockdowns, the majority of the world, I'll go as far as to say this, the majority of the world had psychic experiences. Their minds were suddenly freed from the day-to-day routine of things. And suddenly the mind was open and receptive. I always say there were so many little thoughts going around the world that people were just picking up on. It's not being spread by social media or the news outlets of the time. It's just people were picking up on these things and just... But a lot of people found that very disconcerting. Yeah, a lot of people found this very disconcerting because, the majority of the people who will be listening into this tonight or later on in Catch Up will probably have some understanding of spiritualism and, most importantly, psychism. Now, it's interesting because psychism, where it was pushed into the background in our movement of spiritualism, I remember I trained under a couple of the old school mediums, bless them. And anybody working psychically, it's a bit like a witch hunt. It really was. It was not well received. But in today's world, we're seeing great value within that. Now, I am one, and I will be very pedantic about this, as I have been in all the development groups we're running here. Psychic is great as long as you say you're working psychically. If I'm going to put on a psychic night, I will advertise it as a psychic night. I will employ a psychic to do that evening, so people understand that this is not going to be fobbed off as spirit communication, because spirit communication is a whole new ball game. Spirit communication is that three-way conversation, which we have when we work with our evidential mediumship. But as I say, psychism is a very potent tool. And because so many people have had these experiences, I do believe, again, very strongly, that people are a little bit more psychic today than they were 5 years ago. Because they've had that experience, but again, this has caused an awful lot of upset in people because they don't understand what it's about. They don't know where these thoughts are coming from. They don't know how they know things. Quite a few are reaching out intelligently and looking and striving to understand it. But then you can see quite a few more are really not acknowledging it, really not taking on what is this change in me, what is going on. So they just carry on, and some of the things that come out could be so hurtful, unnecessarily, really is unnecessarily. But it's a very interesting situation. So I will continue. I will put that to one side for the moment and hold on to that energy. And a quick hello to everybody. Lovely Charlotte, Christina, I beg your pardon. I need my glasses on when I'm doing this. Our nature is on a spectrum from goodish to downright evil. Help is on the way. Yeah, we have this very meaningful principle in spiritualism, and it's gone right out of my head. Personal responsibility. And yeah, we can choose what we do. Every time we walk out of the door, or every time we sit in the front of a keyboard, we have freedom of choice. We can put in there what I was talking about, this really negative stuff and attacking all the time. Or we can search deeply and try and find something uplifting and wonderful. Or even just think, yeah, I can't find it today, so I'm not going to say anything. So we all have that choice. It's where these choices are forged and formulated. You know, one thing in spiritualism has taught me and continues to teach me is the importance of life and all its meanings. So it's not just the importance of my life, my time here, however long it's going to be, and what I can do with it, but also realizing and understanding and feeling that other people are exactly the same. We're all on this journey together. And yeah, in and through working in spiritualism, it's taught me to handle things differently. You know, I'm not saying I'm perfect, I'm not saying I'm a saint. I still managed to upset a few people, that's fine. Generally, they've found upset because they haven't got what they want. Which sounds awful, but it's true. I want this from you, so I need you to do this. Well, I'm not doing it. Well, what's wrong with you? Why don't you like me? It's not you, it's what you're trying to get me to do. So it's, yeah, it's one of these things. We always have that choice, don't we, Christina, on what we're going to do, how we're going to, as I say, we need probably to learn really quickly how to respond to things, not to react. Because if somebody said something and instantly a trigger of yours is pressed and out comes the vehemence in the reply, the argument or the situation or the lesson then becomes about the interaction with two people. Whereas actually, if you peel away at the energies, if somebody has said something and it really triggers you, there is a duty of self to go, why has that really annoyed me? Why has that made me so angry? And to examine it. Because quite often when we start examining things, we go back and back and back and look through different things in our life, see where we felt wronged. But even then, you know, with hindsight's such a wonderful gift, isn't it? We can look back at those times and, if not forget, but probably we can forgive where we've had issues with other people, because for the time we really can't get into the deep and meaningful levels of it. Is it me reacting because it reminds me of this, or are they reacting because of something I'm not aware of in their life plan? So yeah, our nature is a spectrum, but it's not random. Nothing in our world is random. This has become very prevalent over the last 4 months now, in many facets of spiritualism. Nothing is random. So, where are we? Good evening, lovely Charlotte. How are you, my darling? Reverend Sherry-Ann, I think we should embrace changes. If we don't, how can we grow? Yeah, that's very true. If we could let go and go with the flow, Do you know what? You'll find things go so much better if you liken it to a river with quite a strong current flowing downstream, as rivers do. Do they ever flow upstream? I'm sure they do somewhere. Never mind, that's me wondering. But a river with this current flowing downstream. Now, we can get in that river, and we've got two choices, going back to what Christina was talking about, the spectrum of what we choose. So we can choose to fight against the current, and we're going to find that physically tiring, mentally tiring, because we'll be swim, and really not making a lot of ground. You know, for every stroke we take forwards, there's 2/3 of a stroke lost because we're being taken backwards. Whereas if we get in and go with the current, things will move. Things will move. But why don't we do that? Because we look at it from our personal physical life. We look at it as, if I go along with this idea, it's like I'm conceding to their argument and they've won. Ooh, this is interesting. This is me philosophizing on the hoof tonight. So often we don't like to go with the flow, because we're always going to look at what we perceive to have lost in the physical, in the real world. Real world. It's not the real world, is it? This is the illusion. But in this world of matter in which we live. So embracing change is great. But it's embracing it on all the levels as well, and understanding why, because this is often a big thing which holds up change, is the explanations, the understandings aren't shared. Why? Why do you want to do this? What benefit will it bring? How will it affect others? Do we need to work more at it to bring it into effect? How is this going to reach out? How are we going to sell this? And when I use that word sell, how are we going to sell this to others? You know, does this make sense to Joe Bloggs in the street? Or is this going to be for a very limited audience? Is this going to be for, people who have really well developed on the mediumship? Things like that. There's so many different factors. So, I agree with you totally, Sherry-Ann, that change is something to embrace, but it's something to be understood as well. It's something to be felt and be at ease with, be comfortable with it. Because if there's any sign of discomfort there, we owe it to ourselves to go into it and go, why don't I like this? Why don't I like topless Sundays at the church now? That's not happening, by the way. What is it? What is it? Why don't I like this? So again, we're coming back to self, aren't we? And we're talking about personal responsibility again, because that is part and parcel of it. We've got to be responsible to ourselves and understand things. And do you know what? Some things we may not be in the right place or the right state, even though deep down we think it's right, but I'm not going to do it because. Nose face time. So we have that responsibility to look at everything we do and what we are and how we're doing, and try and understand that and try and work it through. And let's say none of this is going to come in an instant. None of this is going to be like an epiphany moment. We will have a few epiphany moments along the line. But that's not going to happen all the time, because you're going to come away and thinking, I don't know why that doesn't sit with me, something. But you put the thought out and say to the other world, help me understand this. Help me, realize what is going on here. Why am I in a battle with myself over something? And do you know what? I base this on my experience. the number of times you get not the answer, but you get the lead into the answer. You have a conversation, or you read something, or just in a moment of inspiration, there's just this thought that flows, and you just think, well, that's interesting, because if I follow that through, I can see where my path and this path is going to start intersecting. Maybe work out what this is, and does that change need to be in the way it is, or is there room to maneuver? We always think change is negotiable. We have changes in our material earthly language which are forced upon us, but we know as spiritualists that the spirit is indomitable, the spirit goes on forever, the spirit isn't affected by conditions and hardships of the physical world. It's part of the learning experience. It will be taken in and understood and worked with, but it's not going to be the dominant force for the spirit. I'm pretty sure, and hopefully like the rest of you, that when we go over the other side, we're going to come across things and think, why didn't I see that? That was so easy. Why did I miss that? Why did I spend so much time chasing that when actually it really mattered? Really, really didn't matter. So yeah, Sherry Ann, I do agree. Embracing change and all that entails. Lovely Charlotte, nature's helping. Yeah, nature is a very helpful energy. The colours, it's been that first chill of winter the last couple of days, and it's been very still. So there's this carpet of leaves everywhere around town. And you can just looking at the leaves on the ground now and just seeing the pattern in them, and your mind follows that lifespan through of that now is going to turn to dust and eventually end up back in the soil, and eventually be part of a new ecosystem, and eventually be reborn as a new, and you just think, wow. And that helps you in the real world, the material world. I keep calling it the real world. I need to have a word with myself. That helps you in the material world, because when you start seeing that cycle of life of how things go around, it does make you slow a little bit. It does make you go, okay. The old saying, isn't it? What goes around comes around. Sometimes it's applied in a negative way, but it is very true, because everything comes around again. We see a lot of the situations in the world, they haven't changed for hundreds and hundreds of years. There's different players, different theatres, different venues for all these things, different thinking. But when you pair it back to the basic energy, there's nothing changed. There's nothing changed. It's a constant struggle for balance between greed and giving, between what we understand as light and dark, between harmony and discord. It's always just striving for that balance, isn't it? And everything, when we look at all the situations, because the balance is badly lacking, this is where it takes on an energy of its own. But again, the core energy is about bringing the balance back in. Once that can be achieved, all these things will dissipate and fall away. Interesting. Lovely Belinda saying compassion is the key. Yeah, true. Compassion is a very strong energy. And exercising compassion for ourselves. Funny enough, I was putting the final details together for a 2-day self-healing course here next year with the wonderful David Powell. It's 2 days, and there's a 3-week break in between each one. So, and it was just the wording of it. And when I was writing it out, and I thought, this is really true. You know, we all try to be the healers, don't we? We all want to heal people. We all want to make people feel better. We want to make people laugh. We all want to make people to be happy. But how often do we do that for us, for ourselves? It's, yeah, I see this so often with people. And again, part of the previous discussion there about the balance side. You know, when you give all the time, you're out of balance. And sooner or later, things will happen to bring you back into balance. Now, in our orthodoxy and with some of the more secular-minded people, this is often referred to as a punishment. You know, we're not punished. We're not punished at all. It may seem like that, and it's very easy to feel like that, because when we start looking at it as a punishment, we then take on and engender that energy that it's something that's inflicted on us, whether it be by people on the earth or whatever deity you choose to follow, but it absolves us of responsibility, doesn't it? You know, I'm being punished because I was a wicked person. But this punishment is being forced upon me by somebody else. And I'm really sorry I was a wicked person, but I've still got this punishment being forced upon me. And it's sort of like, well, you know what? You had the key in your hand the whole time. Yeah, we've always got that key in our hand. We've always got that ability to just stop and think. Yeah, things are going to happen spontaneously. I do feel sorry for when you see reports in the newspaper of somebody being, it wouldn't be murder, it'd be manslaughter. Because in the heat of the moment, things just got out of hand. Terrible, terrible, terrible thing. I talk about this because I know somebody it happened with. And I know this person was actually quite a decent bloke. But that happened and everything had to follow, because in a conversation with him, he said, I'm being punished, aren't I? I said, no, you're not being punished. You're learning, you're evolving, you're growing. The only person that's capable of punishing you is yourself. You know, you've got certain things now you need to do to pay back to society. But, you know, if you sit there and take this on as a punishment, you're also going to grow a resentment to whatever source you think that punishment comes from. Well, actually, it's not like that. It's yourself, you know, and everybody knows you. Their hearts are out to you because they know it was an aberration, it was a moment. And allow yourself that as well. It was totally out of character, it was an accident, it happened. Very little could have been done beforehand. It happened, but it's how you handle now the consequences. So yeah, it's really difficult, that one, compassion. Because to exercise that compassion for other people, you know, sometimes people do the most dreadful, dreadful things. And I still get very challenged by that at times. Especially, well, you know what, the two things, my triggers, are children and animals. You know, the most defenceless parts of our society, and when something atrocious is carried out upon them, you know what, I can sometimes just sit here and weep for it because I don't understand it. I really do not understand it. Do not understand how people can bomb civilians. I don't understand how people can hurt pets or wildlife. You know, That's one of the things I'm pretty sure when I go over is going to be part of, well, I hope, because I put the thought out, part of my work when I go over will be to come back and work in the ministry there with children and animals. I really hope that happens. That would be wonderful. Oh, do you know what? Oh, thank you. That would be a wonderful thing. That would be a wonderful thing. Then again, you know, when you take another step back from all of this, we've got to look at this earth. Why is this earth here? Why on earth? Why on earth are we here? Good question. Anybody? um, Again, I think that regarding the evolution of our soul, which is our core business, each and every one of us are spirit incarnate. Each and every one of us is this soul light. And we talk about progression, but we must never forget that progression can be a two-way street. We can progress upwards and we can progress downwards. And I think that this world, this existence, this plane of existence, is very instrumental in bringing that over, in providing the necessary situations where we can make that choice. So again, probably personal responsibility again. What's the meaning of life? Personal responsibility. That's easy, isn't it? But yeah, you look at, you know, being a billionaire in a world of poverty and strife. You have choices, don't you? Up to you. I mean, I do know that wealthy people do good work for charities, for different things. I'm not decrying that. But it just seems wrong that 1% of the population have something like 94% of the world's wealth in their pockets. And the world's a sad place at the moment. There's nowhere that isn't going through a hard time. Whether it be war, famine, social, political. You know, if we go out looking for fault, we're always going to find it. But it just seems at the moment that we are surrounded by it. Everywhere is having their issues, theirs to deal with. And again, this is part of our cycle of life, isn't it? Because all these issues that people want to deal with, we all have an option on how we're going to deal with it. You know, one of the things of spiritualism is it's always been a very activist movement. Going back to the very early days, there were a lot of political campaigners. Really interesting. I read a piece about the Fox sisters last night, and it was the story after Hydeville. It was quite interesting, very sad actually, very sad. But one of the sisters took up residence with this couple who were spiritualists, but at that time still spiritualists hadn't been given their name. But these people would sit in seances with one of the Fox sisters at their home, but also in their home they were part of the secret highway for slaves to escape the south of America, Louisiana and places like that, and escape to the north where the slavery rules weren't so tight and the attitudes were different. The secret railway or something. I have heard the name before. And also they were very active in women's rights of the time, because in those days didn't have any. You know, yeah, it's history. That's what it was. So interesting that this energetic link between spiritualism and activism is shown in so many different areas of our history. And but it's not surprising, is it? It really isn't surprising. Because when we embark on this journey in and through spiritualism, when we're going down this route of, coming from, it's not a belief system anymore, because a belief requires you to believe in it. Well, I don't believe in it, I know it's a fact. Time and time and time again, through my workings and other workings with the other world and the way the manifestations of things, it's an undeniable fact. But this brings a responsibility as well to us. This brings, we can just, it saddens me when we go out to places and evidential mediumship is regarded with almost the air of a bit of a novelty. It's a nice way to pass an afternoon. Oh, that was lovely. Who's next week? I find that energy really difficult to work with, and I know it's something I've got to get over myself. Another one of my lessons: get over yourself, Saddle. But I do find it really, really difficult because it is so profound. I mean, if you take Joe Bloggs off the streets and said, this is fact, you do not die for the life of you, and you get them to buy into that, to understand that, start taking that on board. I mean, you're talking a momentous revelation there. You're not talking Asda have got their Christmas range out now, and they've got a really nice new vegan turkey breast. You're talking about something that's going to have profound implications on every facet of your life, because life then becomes valuable. Life then becomes the essence of all things. Be it a tree, be it a child, be it a cat, she's around somewhere, sweeping off the tumour, that had a life. People we meet, and when you start delving into that thinking, this is going to bring about profound changes in you. I know myself, I worked hard in different environments, but I know I'm a very different person to what I was 10 years ago, which was a very different person to the person 10 years before that. And sometimes I surprise myself. I just go, oh, that's quite a grown-up thought, Lawrence. That's very mature. So, yeah, again, it's all about change, isn't it? How we cope with these changes. Lovely Roy. Good evening, Roy. As in the spirit realm, we are all different levels of understanding. We have to experience so much, but we are capable of change for ourselves and others. Very true. Yeah, that potential for change is always there. But it's allowing it, it's accepting it, it's understanding it, and engaging with it again. And then, because if you're just doing lip service to it, the energy isn't there, the intent isn't there, and it's probably not going to go very far. It's going to become a little bit lifeless, become a little bit like an autonomon. Put the other teeth in. And we see this time and time again, don't we? We see when people really put their heart and soul into something, it takes on a life, it takes on its own movement, it takes on its own presence. But when people do, oh, that'll do, that's what you get. So, yes, Roy, we do. Darren Bell, ooh, I like you. Have you given thought to what our spirit evolution could be for? Ooh. Could be for, that's a really interesting phrase. Could be for. so many thoughts on the evolution of the soul, the evolution of the spirit world, where we're evolving to. We quite often hear it said that we must come from a lower realm of spirit because we keep coming back through this physical existence until we get to a point where we can learn no more from this physical existence. And then we're going to change up the gear. We're going to move up to another level. We're going to that step closer to the divine within all things. What it's for. I would venture a thought that it isn't to a plan. It isn't some grand scheme of things. I would say it's a natural ebb and flow of energies. So you imagine you've got the divinity, God, whatever your beliefs, your understanding, it doesn't matter, all right? So you've got that divine source and everything radiates from it. And with the natural ebb and flow, everything that radiates from it, sooner or later, will be drawn back to it. There's some wonderful work being displayed recently about the Fibonacci scale. And they were showing these lines working with the orbits of planets. And the patterns were absolutely amazing. But the thing was, it all comes back to it. It all goes back to source. So today, tonight, at this time, it's probably change in the morning because I have time to think about it. I think that we are just part of this natural ebb and flow of the energetic world of which we truly are part of, even though in the physical world we have this casing. The true us is still this wave of energy, and I just wouldn't be surprised if life is just about the ebb and flow. You know, why do waves keep crashing on a beach when they're never going to get any further up the beach? Because they do. So why do we keep going round and back and forth? Because we do, and we have these different journeys to go on. And we may go further out before we can start to come back. I don't really think of that. It's probably sat there going, oh, that was a load of tosh. I was expecting something clever, but I don't think it is a clever answer. I don't think there is to try and guess the scheme of things, if there was such a thing. You're trying to interpret the mind of God. And I don't think we can do that. I don't think we're anywhere near the ability to do that, to understand that. But for us simple, or me, I'm simple. I like simple things. On our simplistic journey, we all came from that source, and we are just like the waves on the beach, breaking, going back to source, breaking, going back to source. When you take it with the waves on the beach allegory, each wave on the beach is going to deposit sand or pick up sand. It's going to effect a physical change upon that beach. Well, maybe that's part with our lives, that we can have this ability where we can affect change, big and small, wherever, for ourselves and others. Oh, I like that. I'm going along with that. That's going to be a book. So, thank you, Darren. I like that one. So following up on that with Darren, how about helping others evolve? It would make a brilliant pattern. Yes, but again, I should have called this personal responsibility night, not change. But the two are interlinked, so I love the way they're working. The evolution of the soul has got to begin with us. Because again, when we do integrate with that and take that on fully, then, we have that passion, we have that presence. Have you ever noticed how some mediums will just draw people? You could put up 10 medium nights, all 10 different mediums. Only a certain few will really draw the numbers. Fascinating. There's something I've noticed with the bookings, to say where I am at Paul. There's a couple of mediums, and I often joke, I don't even need to advertise them. I just say, oh, they're coming down, everybody be there. There's just something there. So there is this attraction there that maybe we conscious or unconsciously register. And that's going to be the same with evolution, because, as we evolve, we're going to change. We really are going to change. And this is something that's not often taught in the developing of the aspiring medium. It can be all nice and fluffy, can't it? Oh, you did wonderfully. Oh, well done, you. Oh my God, you're amazing. Which, encouragement is good, but we also need to bring in the balance for that. The understanding about, as we evolve spiritually, we're going to change. Now, this can be really difficult, not only for us to manage, but for others to deal with. I always say it was one of the old school mediums here. She was married 6 times, bless her. I think she liked cake or something. But I always remember her saying once, and at the time I understood it, but now I really understand it. She said, well, we just changed and outgrew each other. And I thought, oh, that's sad, but now I get it. I really do get it, because there are people, everyone's going to have people in their lives that 4 years ago, they're the best thing since sliced bread. And today, things may be quite different because we've changed. So there's 2 things there. So it's helping, it's how the other person manages that change, but also how do we manage that change? Because sometimes we can be a wee bit lazy, can't we? Or is that just me? And when we get these change situations, sometimes it could be just easier to say, oh, well, I don't know what's the matter with them, but, that's it. We've finished. That's nice and neat, isn't it? That's very easy. Oh, yeah, it's all their fault. Don't know what's wrong with them. They need to get a grip. But anyway, I'm not having anything to do with them now. That's very easy, isn't it? Well, that stops you looking at, actually, have you changed? Because as I said, I've had it with people, and I've just seen, just not drawn anymore. I just see that I'm not drawn anymore. So yes, how about helping others evolve? Always be available to assist, Darren. However, number one, never try and force evolution on people, because that will 9 times out of 10 really will not be welcome. In fact, it will cause resentment. And also, it's how we present the opportunity to evolve. We've got to be very mindful that we don't make the story for them. Well, if they see things this way, that will happen to them. Not necessarily. We all think differently, So you can be there to help with the evolution. And 9 times out of 10, the work of that is just listening to people and not talking. It's just letting people express themselves and maybe just drop in the odd nugget. But again, we can, going back to the healer in us all, where we all want to heal everybody else. It's the same with this energy you're dealing with, helping others evolve. We want to take them through, don't we, to this bright, wonderful place, and they're going to be happy. Well, they might not be. Have you ever thought about that? They might not be happy there. They may not be ready for it. They may want somewhere totally different. But here we are trying to put them in the mould that we think is right for them. So, yeah, helping others, I think 99% of that work is listening to others, and not going in with the energy of, right, I'm going to sort this out, I'm going to make this better. Just listening to others, because you know what, when you truly listen, when you really, really do create that space where you're listening, not only orally, but psychically, intuitively, you know, the whole thing takes on a different atmosphere. You can understand where people are, and some people just may not be ready to evolve at this time. They may not desire it. You can still plant a few seeds for a later date. That's great. But just listen. So yeah, I think my answer to that, Darren, is helping others evolve. The key is listening on all levels. On every level that we've got all these senses available to us. If you listen with all them and allow that person to express, because you know the other side of the coin, how often do people, you know, they get a thought in their head and it starts going round and getting bigger and it takes on a life of its own sort of thing. And when you actually say it to somebody, verbalise it, you just think, oh God, what was I worrying about? What's the matter with me? I know I've done that on several occasions. So yeah, again, it's the power of listening. But yeah, going back to the topic here, the change. How do we manage change? Gently, I found. We're delving within spiritualism now. You know, we've had a lot of change go on, and I believe there's a lot more to come. And I'm not talking about any one organisation or individual or group. I think as a whole, because today's world has changed so much, for me, it's perfectly natural that spiritualism will change to be of service in today's world. Unfortunately, we do have the thing again, we don't want change because we're funny creatures. I've got 8 tops in my wardrobe, I only ever wear 2 because I like them. Or is that just being old? Yeah, we don't like this change, but do you know what? The other world, probably 3 steps ahead of us anyway. And the more we try and adhere and stick to the tried and tested way all the time, is not going to be as empowering as it used to be. Oh, that's nice one. Thank you. Yeah, it's not going to be as empowering as it used to be. I'm seeing this in our virtual arena, in our real life arena, that the demonstrations of just evidential mediumship, again, you will get the few people that have just got this magnetic attraction. They've got good ability and they've got this persona, they've got this attraction that draws people. And you can have some wonderful nights with that. But on the whole, in the rank and file, the dens of mediumship, a little bit lackluster nowadays. And that's nothing to do with the quality or the pedigree of the medium. You know, we're not talking here the people who've done one course and now a medium, because there's a whole range of people this entails. I just feel that the other world's input there, the emphasis is shifting slightly. And a lot of people are not going to like this, but I keep seeing positive affirmation for it. Where we're seeing demonstrations being held in theatres and social clubs and things like that, you're getting a lot of attendance, a lot more. You know, I asked myself this question a few months back. Why, if I put a den of mediumship on here in the church, I will probably get 40 people. Yet if I put them over the road in one of the rooms at the art centre, I'll probably get 80 people. So what is that about? Well, again, it's the other world. Religion is sadly on the wane in our world. It's nothing like it used to. I grew up in the era, and I'm sure quite a few of you on here tonight, Sundays were a special day because it was a religious day. My mum's way of handling our religious education was when we got to 13, we were told to go to church. If I don't care what church, just go out and go to church, which actually was quite healthy. I ended up being an altar boy, and also ended up being asked to leave as an altar boy because I used the incense thing as a conquer match with my brother, who was another altar boy, but that's another story. But it opened our mind up to religion. We have children at Paul Church, and I love it. And do you know why I love having children in the church? It's because when those children grow up, church isn't going to be a foreign land to them. There's going to be something there. If kids come to a church and they have a good experience, at some stage of their life, there's going to be some investigation or yearning or wanting to know more. And if they've never been exposed to any religious side, 9 times out of 10, when I have people say to me, "Oh, church wouldn't get me in a church," and so have you ever been in one? No, I would never go in one. I said, well, I don't know how you can be so vehement about something you absolutely have no understanding of. Simple. I'm never eating corned beef. Oh, have you ever tried it? No. So how do you know it's horrible? I like corned beef. So yes. Hello, I've gone right off, right out of the presence here. Apologies, team. Spiritualism, the changes, and it is very disconcerting. Do you know what? I've hand on heart, very early on, when I used to see mediums demonstrate in theatres, I used to doubt that. I used to think, well, that can't be right. That belongs in church with the reverence and everything. You can't do that to people who've had a drink. That's a terrible thing. But do you know what? The other world is so clever in getting their voice out, and just all these people coming together in more of a social event rather than a night down the church. And you never know, do you? Because you're always dropping the seeds. You're always sowing those seeds. You're always giving people something. And the art of giving and taking, receiving, are two totally different energies. What we give out to the public, it's none of our business what they do with it. If they want to investigate it, great. If they want to treat it as a novelty, great. If they just want to say, "Oh, it's all made up," and you've just planted 18 people in there to give messages to, great. I haven't got 18 friends. But it's about giving, isn't it? It's about giving what we can. A strong believer, again, with the churches and centres, this energy of change has come in. It's very prevalent now. And it's causing, quite a lot of upset. Not everywhere. A lot of places are really doing well. A lot of places are really embracing it. But some are really just not willing to, get outside the comfort zone a bit. Not willing to try things, which is sad. But then again, I think we need to, talking in the energy of change, we may be good time now to look at the structure of governance of our churches. I think where certain conditions are imposed upon churches actually works detrimentally against the church. You know, if you've got a regular attendance of 10 people and you've got to find 8 people on the committee, you're really limited, aren't you, for your choice? But if you can run it with a committee of 3 and other people just come in and help where they can, well, what's the problem with that? So, yeah, I think it's well timed that the governance and the way the running bodies, the committees are set up, were just looked at, not attacked. You know, it doesn't take any energy at all to attack anything. Any idiot can go out and attack something. It goes nowhere. But just look at the practicalities of it. You know, the terms of office, you know, is 1 year satisfactory? You not look at 2, 3 or 4 year terms if the people are willing to. So you get continuity, because I think that's another thing that's been letting down some of our churches and centres, is the continuity side, because each year we have the annual popularity contest of who's going to be the president. And this can bring in a lot of change, and sometimes it's not for the better. Sometimes it's just for the ego, or it's done something out of resentment. That one I find really hard to work with. I know an area, I'm not going to name it, who have 5 churches. They started off with 1 church. The committee fell out. Shock horror. People who fell out on the committee went away and set up another church. Guess what? That committee fell out. Oh my God. And repeated. So we've ended up with 5 churches in one area, one geographical area, 4 of whom their initial building material, energetic-wise, was spite against the committee of the church that they'd left. It still makes me laugh in a way that, you know what, for who we should be the masters of working with energy and with intent and with understanding. And we can be the most oblivious to that at times, and then stand there, you know, going, why? Because I'm opening up this church because they don't know how to run. They were horrible to me, so I'm opening this church, and that will show them. And I'm going to put everything on the same time as them, and they will end up shutting down. I'm just sat there going, so I wonder what the spirit teams are sat there going, that's an interesting thing to bring to the table. But yeah, in spiritualism, we need to change. The world's changing. You know, we should be there at the front with the change, not hiding in the background. Oh, nice phrase. Yeah, we really need to be there at the front and managing that as well, because change is never easy. And my heart and thoughts go out to anybody who's running a church and centre. I know the issues you have because I've had them and continue to have them. I know what it's like when you try something new and you get a couple of people being negative about it. I know how much that hurts, but we've got to do it, because, you know, otherwise we're talking about churches and centres shutting down. And really it's no surprise, because there isn't, the movement needs to come back into the movement. So, I didn't think I'd be able to talk a lot tonight. Now I'm going to have trouble shutting me up. So, yeah, Christina picking up on the conversation there with Darren about helping others evolve and change. Thank you, Christina. Pleasure, my darling. Lovely Jan Wilmot. Parents don't seem to encourage their children to go to church these days, and it's such a shame that they are denying them the opportunity to choose for themselves. I agree with you. I know that there are some progressive schools and academies that have RE, what we used to call RE, religious education. Oh God, do you remember assemblies sat there cross-legged, banging out all the assembly banger hymns? Yeah, because it was in our world. This is why, you know, when we look at countries like Italy with Catholicism, it's not a religion. It's part of their life. It's part of the structure of everything. No matter where you are, at home, at work, in the shops, in the bars, you know, your religious precepts govern how you behave, respond, and act with other people. And if you don't, it's picked up upon because, no, that's not the way of the church. That's not the way our religion works. So it's very strong, very endemic in different cultures. But unfortunately, in the UK, you know, we've seen almost an attack on religion over the years. The number of churches that are shut down now and turned into whatever. The church is a big church in... Thank you. There's a big church just the other side of Bournemouth. I was going past there the other week and I noticed that they don't have a full-time priest there. It's done on a circuit. So now one priest has to serve 4 or more dioceses and things like that. So, yeah, how do we sell religion then? It's an interesting one. No, that'll be a good Lyceum, that. How do you sell like a religion? How do we bring it back in? How do we open people up? Yep, more questions and answers being raised tonight. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining. I do like these impromptu evenings. I do like to sit here because it's always a joy when I'm talking. It's like working your way through things. So thank you for allowing me to do that with you all, whether you're watching tonight live or you're going to listen in the future. Welcome, and I hope it's given you some food for thought in many different areas tonight. So have a wonderful, wonderful, blessed night. Wrap up warm. I'm going to go and have big pussycat cuddles now because she's looking at me. Sadly, if you could see the face on it, honestly. Have a wonderful night, everybody. Oh, don't forget, tomorrow we have our live streamed service from the church. 3 ladies tomorrow working with their philosophy. You know, I'm very passionate for philosophy, and these are developing mediums, so they've got an opportunity. We have 1 reading, which I will be giving, and 3 of them can work with their teams to deliver their philosophy on that. Because, again, the philosophy really is the bread and butter of spiritualism at times. It really does get that message out. So great for their development, interesting to see, and hopefully see them at 11 a.m. GMT. In the meantime, have a wonderful night. God bless, take care, and a good night.